goes Om iti etad aksharam idang sarvam tasya upavyakhyanam bhuta bhavad bhavishyaditi sarvam omkara eva yachanya trikalatitam tadapi omkara eva sarvam hi etad brahma ayamatma brahma so ayamatma chatushpat jagrati stanaha bahihi prajnaha saptangaha ekona vimshati mukaha stulabuk vaishwanaraha pratamaha padaha Swapnasthanaha antah prajnaha shaptangaha ekona vimshati mukaha pravivikta buk tejaso dvitiyaha padaha yatra shupto na kanchana kamam kamayate na kanchana swapnam pashyati tat shushuptam shushuptistanaha eki bhutaha prajnana gana eva anandamayo hi ananda buk cheto mukaha prajnaha tritiyaha padaha येष सर्वेश्वरः येष सर्वज्ञः येष अन्तर्यामी येष योनिः सर्वस्य प्रभवाप्ययो हि भूतानां न अन्तः प्रज्ञं न बहिः प्रज्ञं न उभयतः प्रज्ञं न प्रज्ञं न प्रज्ञानगणं न प्रज्ञं न अप्रज्ञं अदृष्टं अव्यवहार्यम् अग्राह्यम् अलक्षणम् अचिन्त्यम् अव्यपदेश्यम् एक आत्म प्रत्यय सारं प्रपंच उपशमं शांतं शिवम् अद्वैतं चतुर्थं मन्यन्ते स आत्मा सविज्ञेयः. So these are the mantras that we have done, 7 mantras that we have covered over the last 2 months. So a brief recap, of course. So what we have established over the last 12 months is consciousness cannot be the symptom of a jada or a stone. Insentient things, the material things in the universe do not have a consciousness of their own. Consciousness is a symptom of the jiva. So that is the first concept that we established, that jiva, what is the symptom of the jivas? It is the consciousness which is the symptom of the jivas, which we established. Then we discussed that this consciousness of the jiva is not an independent consciousness. That we can understand from the state of our consciousness in our samsara. So what do we go through in our samsara? Jagrati sthana, swapna sthanaha, and sushupti sthanaha. That is wakeful state, dream state, and dreamless sleep or sushupti. These are the three states that the jivas go through in samsara. And when they are awake and when they are in dream, they may be doing some actions, particularly in the waking state. They do actions. Because of that, they incur karmas. The karmic imprints on the linga sharira then determines their birth back in the material world. And they go through this cycle from birth to childhood to youth to old age, and then they die, and they go through these eternal cycles in these three states of consciousness of the jivas. And we established, so this conscious states of the jiva in the three states in samsara is totally dependent on the supreme lord. It is totally dependent on the supreme being. We may assume that we are in control of our destinies, but unfortunately the sad reality is we do not own anything in this world, let alone our body or the pindanda. And we have not decided where we are coming, how long we are going to spend time here, and when are we going to go somewhere else and again come back. None of these we know. But yet, the brief period of time that we spend in the Mrityu Loka, we somehow assume that we are the independent lords of this universe and that we own everything. Yeah, so that our consciousness is extremely dependent. For those of us who are mumukshus, who are in the path towards realization, that is the first thing that we need to realize, that we are nothing in this existence. We are not even a dust. We are smaller than the dust, and that we are totally dependent on a higher power. Yeah. So that we established over the last 2 months in the state of samsara. And in the state of moksha, so when eventually this jiva does good activities and finishes off its karmas, and then eventually makes its way towards the abode of the supreme lord, and once it goes there, Then the discussion in Mandukya Upanishad is, what is that state of consciousness of the jivas there? And how does the Supreme Lord in moksha control the consciousness of the jivas? What are all the things that the jivas are entitled to receive in that state of consciousness? So this is where we are at this point of time. So last week, Varuna or Manduka form, in one Manduka form, he kind of gave us a hint, a kind of introduction to what is that conscious state of the jivas in mukti, in moksha. What is their conscious state? And he started off with a very negative form, and then he took them to a positive form. Yeah. And he said, this is na antaha prajnam, that conscious state in the moksha state is not like a dream state. Na bahihi prajnam, that conscious state of the jivas is not like the conscious state in the waking state of the samsara. Na ubayataha prajnam, it is not like the dream walker or the daydreamer. Na prajnana ganam, it is not like the susupti state where the jiva is in total ignorance. Although it knows that it is in close proximity and embracing the Supreme Lord in the deep sleep, it is not aware that it is in that situation. So that is its sad affair, sad state, and that is why it is called Sushupti. And that is also called Prajnanaganam, because it is full of ignorance. He also reminded us that conscious state in moksha is not the conscious state of prajnam. Prajnam is in the dhyana state. That is in a samprajnata sthiti, when your mind is still operating with when the jiva is still operating with the material mind. That state of dhyana, when it has that consciousness, and we also discussed that it is very similar to the voluntary dream state. Yeah. So there is the involuntary dream state that we go through in swapna. Dhyana is we are voluntarily, by our own volition, we are bringing a thought from the subconsciousness, bringing it to consciousness, and then we are focusing on it. Yeah. So that is prajna. And our Varuna says that that conscious state of the jivas in moksha is not like the conscious state that you experience when you are in dhyana state. Then he also said it is na aprajnam. Aprajnam is total ignorance, total unconsciousness. He said it is also not like that. So he gave so many negatives, and then he said, but that Supreme Lord who controls that state of the consciousness of the jivas in moksha, he controls them, but what are his qualities? And again, he said that also he starts as in a negative form. He said adrishyam, avyavaharyam. He said you can't see him with material eyes. You can't grasp him with your material mind. You cannot reach him fully with your words and so on. And then he gave a positive impression of the Supreme Lord who controls the conscious state of the jivas in in the fourth state, as you know, is called Thurya. And he said this supreme person is Eka, he is Atma, he is Pratyaya, he is Sara, he is Prapancha Upashama, he is Shanta, he is Shivam, he is Advaitam, so he gave all sorts of positive names of the Supreme by which we understand a particular type of attribute of the Supreme. So he said, so I am Atma Chatushpat in the second mantra, and then he finishes it off in the eighth mantra, Chaturta Manyante Sa Atma Sa Vigneyaha. Okay, so this is the whole, this is a comprehensive analysis of Varuna in 8 mantras of the conscious states of the jivas and how the Supreme Lord controls the conscious states of the jivas. HinduKnowledgeAcademy.com will celebrate Vedic culture and present its philosophies to the modern Hindu in an accessible format. Our ancient heritage is our greatest strength. Through preservation and dissemination, together let us spread positivity in the world. Thank you for listening and welcome to Hindu Knowledge Academy.